Hey everybody, it's Margitt. Today we're going to talk about how the cycles of the moon are related to the different phases of womanhood. In our last video we talked about the moon with our menstrual cycles, so you kind of get aware of the different cycles of the moon. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with the new moon. This is the Crone. This is the death and rebirth part of life. During that new moon when it's the darkest phase in the sky. So we're going to see this little one is born, this new little girl is born, and she's growing into, as she grows and matures, she becomes a maiden with her first period or menarche. Or at the age of 13, we begin to cycle with the moon. And this is a very big deal, for when she begins to cycle, she becomes a woman and is in those phases for the rest of her life. This is the age from about 13 to about 29. If she physically gives birth to a child, she automatically goes into that motherhood phase. But the maidenhood phase can be such a beautiful and experiential time for the young woman. When we're young girls, we are contained within our families. And when we begin to become a woman, and in that maiden phase, we begin to explore outside of our family. We begin to want to have different experiences with our peers, have experiences with different types of relationships, new environments. And so this is a time where she begins to explore outside of the family, and she begins to individuate and create some kind of identity. This is a time where she kind of wants to feel out her purpose. She may be putting her finger in different cakes and kind of tasting to see what she likes and what she doesn't like. This is a time where she's exploring her sexuality. So it's a very beautiful time in a young woman's life, like I said before, but it's also a time where there's a lot of darkness, a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes, a lot of, going down the wrong road, having to kind of back up and maybe try something new. And this is all an opportunity for growth and to learn about herself. And as mothers and as communities, it's important that we create a container for these young women and young people. When I began to learn about what a container is and holding a container, and just holding my children and allowing them to grow in ways that they want to explore, and putting my dreams and my inspirations for them kind of at the wayside, and just holding them. It's such a beautiful, beautiful way of being, and to see them in just such different light, and all of their gifts and their beauty. So it's important that we hold these young maidens in a beautiful container as they explore and maybe fall down, or get in trouble, or have to come back as they explore this new way of being. So the next phase of womanhood, and also if this hasn't been explored and there is no individuation, there's a lot of codependency that can happen, and a lot of difficulties later in life with individuation and identity. So as she moves forward into life, around the full moon part of our life, this is the ages of about 30 to about 50. This is where she wants to settle down with a partner, maybe create a family, give birth to life, children. Or it's a time where she wants to really just kind of settle down and really give birth to some kind of career or purpose in her life. You don't need to be a physical mother where you give birth to children to be a mother. There's different ways that women mother, and we can see many examples around in our culture. So it's a very fruitful time, fertile time. It's a very time where it's very busy. We have lots and lots of energy as women at this time. Multitasking is our gift. Intuition becomes heightened as we become into those mama bear roles. And beginning to come into that power of that mother. And it's a very beautiful, fruitful time. It's a time where we want to be out in the world, collaborating, being with community. It's just a beautiful, beautiful time in a woman's life. And if you think back to mothering young ones, it's very, very busy. but can be very, very fun and a time of exploration. The shadow part of that motherhood is how do you balance career, giving it all or giving it all to your family and children and giving back to yourself. And it's a really hard balance, and we don't have a lot of ways in our culture that, or I'm a Generation X, so there's more examples now in our culture to do that, for the young mothers to take time for self, to create that balance. Because if you don't have that balance, it becomes a shadow and you become exhausted and depleted and you're not able to give. And then that can cause disease and different problems with your health and relationships down the road. So it's a very, very beautiful time in a woman's life, and I miss that part of my life very, very much. Then as we go into the third quarter phase, we come into, we go this way, into the Mage phase or the Enchantress phase. This is the ages of about 50 to about 65. This is a new phase that has been starting to be written about since the last feminist movement in the 60s and 70s. This is, when you look back at ancient times, they basically just had the three phases of womanhood, which was the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone. But there's been a lot of more writings and expansion because we are living a lot longer, and there's this beautiful harvest time of a woman's life where she is in her power, she is owning it. The children are either, they're leaving the nest. That responsibility of motherhood is no longer a part of her presence. Or if she was in that career or building some kind of purpose, it's settled and she's starting to eat the fruit of that, of all of that work that she has done. So it's a time where there's a lot more time, and all of that energy that was being put out either to the family or the career or out into the community is now coming back to self. So self-care becomes very, very important during this time. This is a time where we're going through premenopause, menopause, so self-care is very, very important. It's a time where there's a lot more quiet, so there's a lot more trusting of intuition, connecting back to self. And there's a lot of freedom in this. I got my training wheels. I was initiated into my Matriarch last year. So I'm beginning, and as my daughter left for college, I'm just beginning to taste this freedom of choice just for me, and not being choosing for what's best for the family or what's best for the direction of the children or my husband's needs or holding it all together. It's coming back to myself and making those choices. And when we look across the wheel from the Mage to the Maiden, we look at the young Maiden and we look at her and what she loved to do, what made her happy, and what did she like exploring. Was it traveling with friends? Was it painting? Was it, just sitting outside with nature and writing poetry? So we're looking back to that young maiden and beginning to fill that maidenhood, that new maiden, that new part of us again. So women at this age are exploring that aspect of themselves. Plus they want to give back. They don't have to work as hard at their career. They don't have to work with their family as hard. And so they want to give back in a way to the community, in a way of service. So maybe mentoring, volunteering, teaching, whatever it is that they learned and that they've gained, and they want to be of service to the community. Because we are still very productive. We still have lots of energy. This is a time where women are in their power. They have lots of experience through their life, and they are able to give back. And they want to give back. So I think with this Gen Xers going through this phase and really identifying it and understanding it and embracing it, that we're going to be able to make some big changes in our institutions in this planet and really create some change in a loving and compassionate way. So this is a very, very exciting time. I'm out here in Santa Fe during this beginning of this transition, and I can see that just by quieting down and taking care of myself, that there is this power, this wanting to serve, trusting myself. And it's a beautiful, beautiful time. And I'm really looking forward to exploring this more. So, and as we go into, we're going from our Mage into the Crone years. This is pretty much around 65 or maybe later, depending on when we had children and where we are in our different phases. But this is the time where, if she had children, she's beginning to, see her grandchildren in all of their beauty. She's not as physical as she used to be. So she's slowing down in her physicality, and she's starting to go inward. Again, this is the phase of the new moon. So this is the time when the moon begins to go down into the darkness. And this is the time where the woman begins to go inward. And she, with her wisdom, her experience, and her intuition, she is completely connected to the cosmos. This is where we would see the silver-haired woman elder in the community. She's crowned with this, by the community, this beautiful silver hair, and she has a lot of stories to give the community and counsel. They would come to these elders for counsel and to remember, and for advice of which way to go with the community, and to help contain and create harmony, and to teach. So this is a time where the elder is very, very important to the family and to the community. It's kind of a quiet time, so maybe our elders don't want to be out into the world as much as they used to, and you can see them start to draw back. This is also a time where they want to share pictures and trinkets and jewelry and tell their story and leave some kind of legacy. This is also a very beautiful time for the crone to share her stories with books or writings, and to leave some gift of herself to the young ones, to help them remember what it was like in her life to be this beautiful woman with all this experience. It's a very, very beautiful time. We don't have a lot of role models in our life. If you haven't been going through these phases and getting power through each of them, learning about yourself, learning about balance, learning about power. If you haven't been going through those stages in a mature way, then we're not going to get to that beautiful crone or that elder. And I feel that a lot of our society wants us to hang out in that maiden mother phase and try to, as we get older, try to conform into that when our bodies are not that, and we don't want to do that anymore. So I think this is a huge transformation for all women, and I feel if we understand the phases of the moon and begin to connect with her in all of her teachings, and begin to understand the different phases of womanhood, begin to share and talk about this, especially to our young ones. The little ones that I teach, you teach them this stuff, and they remember these phases. They embrace the womanhood, and it's so beautiful to witness. So I think if we knew all the different phases of womanhood, and we can see the beauty in everything, we could have such more love and compassion for each other, instead of this patriarchy competing against each other, or when we're in the older years wishing we could be a maiden, instead of embracing this phase of power and service and choice and mystery. And so I believe this is why I wanted to do this video, because the more and more we connect with these different phases and with each other, we can change the world. So I love you. I hope this was inspirational in any way. I would love to connect with you. If you feel you would like to connect with me, please connect me on Facebook or on email. I love you. Until next time, take care.